Good morning, everybody. How are we doing? Sam here, United People's TV. It's another day, and today is the 67th anniversary of the Munich Air Disaster. And today, at the start of the show, we are going to be having a conversation around the Babes, around the impact of it, and how it still felt at this football club, and always will be on the anniversary. But it's something that absolutely has shaped Manchester United. We'll have a discussion about that at the start of the show. And then we're also going to talk about Luke Shaw's injury update that came live during the show yesterday, some more information on that, and have a discussion. Also talk about this concept of Mission 21, which sounds a bit whiffy, if you ask me. But anyway, we'll speak about that. Dave Brailsford's involvement as sort of performance director at United. We'll also speak about Chido Obi-Martin, the videos that went out yesterday. There's going to be a lot to talk about this morning. So, as always, please do get involved. I will try and answer as many of your comments as I possibly can. One sec, I forgot about this. Let me get this ready for later in the show. Right. So, let me see who's here from the Mod and the Member Gang, and let's get into the show. Good morning to you, Carl. How you doing? Nice to see you there, as always. And Stephanie. Josh, you'll be there too. Akash, good morning to you, buddy. Take off. We've got Iron Potato. How you doing, buddy? We've got Mania, we've got Animation Core, Madhouse, Foxy, Teklom, Abdallah, Saeed, some new names, some regular names, as always. Please just get involved in the comments. Now, today's the 67th anniversary, and it's the history of Manchester United is, I don't know, I can only speak for myself here as a fan. And I suppose it's slightly different because I did a history degree. And I did my dissertation on the Munich Air Disaster, which I'll share with you all. If you look at the pinned comment on here, there's a link to that over on thepeoplesperson.com. And it's free to read. And it's my own dissertation, which it's the concept of it is to look at the social and the economic impact of the disaster on Manchester, on the club, on everybody involved. Of course, United lost 8 players. And it's mad when you look at like the ages of the players. Of course, Duncan Edwards, the gentle giant who was lost. Liam Whelan's 22, David Pegg's 22, Eddie Coleman's 21. If you were to compare that into the players now, it's just it's insane. It really, really is. And it's always important to remember where United have been to where United were in the 90s and 2000s to where United are now. And United have shared this video. I don't know whether I can play too much of it because I think they just put claims on all their videos. I always see this as quite important. So this is like Christian Eriksen and Matthijs de Ligt going to the museum to, I don't know, I'll just do a museum tour. It feels like, you remember Ruben Amorim did this when he came in as head coach. It feels like this is something that every United player kind of should do when they come in. Because I don't think you truly understand what Manchester United is until you truly understand the history of Manchester United. It is something that separates our football club. It's something that's massively important to the whole fabric of our football club. And yeah, today's the 67th anniversary. So if you live in and around Old Trafford, you can go down, of course, to the memorial plaque, and there'll be a service there today. Yeah, the oldest was Roger Byrne at 28. It's mad, isn't it? Of course, 23 people, I believe, died. It wasn't just the players. It was, I can't remember his name. There was a journalist. I think his name was Frank. There was a City goalkeeper as well. There were City players involved as well. Yeah. But I'll share. Here's the link to the dissertation. I spent a long, long time. Never in my life academically had I done as much work as I did on that. So if you'd like to read it, make sure you read it. If not, all right. Anthony is saying, if understanding the history doesn't give a player motivation to give everything they've got for this club, nothing will. For some people, history isn't as important, which is kind of just the truth. Frank Swift. Thank you very much, Stephanie. That was his name. And that's just the truth, the reality, unfortunately. But yeah, there'll be no doubt there'll be lots of videos over on United's official product YouTube and Twitter and Instagram marking the anniversaries. Make sure you watch those. Now let's move on to the news and let's move on to today's stories. And I want to start with this, right? And it just makes you go, eh? What? This has come out from PGMOL yesterday, saying that players' celebrations could lead to punishment if they are deemed critical or mocking. And I'm gonna presume that this is all like a direct consequence of this celebration from Miles Lewis-Skelly against City. Stay humble. They beat them 5-1. So he pulled out the Haaland celebration in consequence. Like, are you kidding me, man? Basically, that's what football fandom is, largely. And it's what, like, players should be able to do that as well. Like, the reason why that Arsenal and United rivalry was so good was because you remembered what happened before. Like, he was an arsehole for doing it, but Keown celebrating in Van Nistelrooy's face. And Roy Keane and Vieira. You remember what happened previously and you use it against them. It's part and parcel of football. The players do it and the fans do it. When we lose at a weekend, we're going to rib our rivals. But you better be prepared for when United lose because it's going to come back to you. Alex is saying, I love that shithousery. Like this yesterday. What are you going to fine Anthony Gordon for saying that after the game? It's such an outrageous concept. Like, football is an emotional game. You ride the waves. Sometimes you crash. Sometimes you burn. Sometimes you win titles. And then you win the arguments amongst your friends. And then next year, it might come back to bite you. But that's just, it's part and parcel of what football is. And if you try and sanitize that so much, what do you want football to be? So much of how modern football has gone, whether it's VAR, whether it's a lot of the football grounds that feel like they're not homes. And I am worried about that with the new stadium. Of course I am. But I'm also aware that I don't think Old Trafford can be renovated to the point where we need it to be. But it's just like, piss off, man. I want players to mock each other. Obviously, don't go. I think anybody mocking disaster. I'm not just saying this on the anniversary of United, the Munich Air Disaster. Anybody like mocking someone's like personal family or like anything that's strictly professional and is related to the game or games that have happened previously, I want that needle in the game. It's what makes the games so much more charged and more enjoyable. It's just like, piss off, man. More of it. Mock everyone. Idiots, man. How do they want people to celebrate goals? Just like a handshake? Just a nod? Yeah, nice. All right. Anyway, move on to this. Ahmad has been nominated for the Premier League Player of the Month. Who's he got alongside him? Phil Foden, Alexander Isak, Justin Kluivert. Did he score 2 hat-tricks this month? Or was it just one? Don't know. Mateta, bastard. And Brian Mbeumo. I mean, Ahmad should obviously win that. Obviously. I don't know who's going to win that. Isaac? No idea. You can vote over on the Premier League website. I would leave the link here, but I tried to use it this morning, and their website is absolutely poop. Really is. Yeah, Jonathan, there has to be tribalism in the game, man. There wasn't, actually. And to go back here, actually, I think that's a pretty... Prior to... when the Munich Air Disaster happened, and this is kind of part of what I've written into the dissertation, tribalism didn't really exist in football. It certainly didn't exist in Manchester. You had fans who supported City and supported United, and it was commonplace. It wasn't weird. It wasn't odd for What do you mean you support City? You go and watch City games and United? It gets weird. It wasn't really until United won the European Cup 10 years later, and that period after, that's when tribalism kind of started to come into Manchester and started to come into Manchester United and the city of Manchester. And then you kind of had the splits between City and United, and then tribalism kind of emerged from that because of our success. But prior to that, back in the 50s, people would go and watch United, then would go and watch City, and it would just be kind of normal. But nowadays, tribalism is clear. Though saying that, again, this is something I've always found very, very strange about modern football, is how there are fans of players rather than fans of teams. And certain fans will follow a player if a player leaves a club, like Ronaldo leaving United and going to Real Madrid. Some certain fans would then become Real Madrid fans simply to watch their player. And it's a really weird concept, but it definitely exists. Like Ronaldo stands, every player's got some, but some are pretty intense. I've never understood that part. The idea that you can just switch allegiances from club to club simply because of what shirt a player is wearing. Nah, man. You ain't never going to get me doing that. Let's move on to speak about a player we talked of yesterday. And I think we need to sort of extend that conversation. Now, it was during the show that this news came out. And it kind of made me laugh. I mean, laugh. I'm not really, it's not funny. But United Menace is, you know full well that I'm always skeptical of bringing any news to you that's not from a sort of a source that I would consider extremely reliable. It's kind of the part and parcel of what I do here. That's why I always feel that certain stories shouldn't be used as headlines and certain journalists, and it kind of feeds into the constant churn at United of stories. But United Menace has been pretty damn bang on when it comes to injury news at Manchester United for a good while. It feels to me like he must have some sort of link to the medical department, some sort of way of finding out information. And then Luke Shaw, and this story came out yesterday. Now, can I just say this at the start, right? I'm about to, unfortunately, make you feel very upset. I don't know what way you want to describe this. Look at this, right? We were doing some research yesterday in the team. Luke Shaw has missed, at Manchester United, he's missed 330 games and been injured for 1,606 days since he joined the club. And that's nearly 5 years of being injured. Now, of course, we know why this is the case. All stems to that massive, massive leg break. Completely shattered both parts of his leg, I think, away at Eindhoven. But that there is just, it's a proper, like, wow. Like, I knew it was bad, but wow. Those numbers are absolutely mind-boggling. And then this story came out yesterday, and there's lots of frustration. And then this has kind of been the follow-up since. You've got Mike McGrath from The Telegraph saying Luke Shaw will actually be back in training on Monday. Club has been kind of cautious over his return to action. He's going to miss the game against Leicester. We go to the Times here and see what they're saying. They're saying Luke Shaw has suffered another setback. It is understood there has been a minor setback. He is now likely to miss the game against Leicester, but there is hope that he'll be able to train next week. So it could well be that United Menace was a little bit overzealous in saying it's anywhere from 4 weeks out. Because the suggestion from club sources, clearly, is that Luke Shaw will be back in training next week. However, honestly, I know the answer to this, so it's kind of a stupid question to ask. Because you're not just going to overlook Luke Shaw for the second half of this season. But I almost kind of half want us to. It's just which might sound like a really ungrateful or horrible thing to say. But I suppose we're going to be desperate because of Martinez getting injured now. And the unavailability of left-sided centre-back options. You've got Johnny Evans. Is Johnny Evans injured? I don't even know. Johnny Evans could play there. You've got Luke Shaw, who could technically play there. You've got probably Godwill Kukonki, who could, in theory, play there. Aidan Heaven, who's been brought in as the understudy to Lissandro Martinez. We're going to be a bit stretched in that left-sided centre-back. I think Mazraoui can play there, and you might see him playing there quite a lot, but I almost don't really want United to give any sort of game time to Luke Shaw and to rather give those minutes and that place in the squad to somebody who is actually going to be here next year, because I'll repeat something I've said 100 times now. My position on Luke Shaw in the summer was fixed. He has to leave after this season. I said, it doesn't matter what happens this season. He has to leave. And I don't think, I might be wrong in saying this, but I don't think that Luke Shaw's played 90 minutes for United this season. And of course, I think the thing that I can see in the comments, quite a few of you mentioned it, he made himself available for England. He played, he started the final. He came off as a sub in the semi. He was involved in both of those. Then got injured in pre-season and hasn't completed 90 minutes for us since. And it's the 6th of February. He has missed over half the season. He missed how much of last season? I can't even remember. The majority of last season, as did Tyrell Malacia. Of course, I've got sympathy for him, but sympathy only goes so far. And my sympathy ends at this point where I think that I'd rather see other people get minutes now inside this squad than I would in just going back to the Shaw story and saying, oh, what if? I don't want to say what if again anymore. The ship has sailed. I would much rather see Yoro or Mazraoui play in that left-sided centre-back position, and I would much rather see Aidan Heaven or Godwill Kukonki be given opportunities in that position. And I'll be totally honest, I think from a Luke Shaw perspective, I think even if he does play in United in the second half of this season, I think you can only really see him playing in the left centre-back role. He can't play in that left wing-back role anymore. I'm going to go down. Well, he could, but you know what's going to happen if he does. Alex, you're saying the team needs to come first. Enough is enough. And I think that's exactly where my stance is now. Right? Richard saying he's got his priorities all wrong. After a year of frustration at United, Luke Shaw wanted to play for England. But I can understand that mentality and approach. However, the fact that he got himself fit, he played, and then he wasn't fit for us in pre-season. He hasn't played 90 minutes for us. These are the consequences of decisions you make, right? Luke Shaw made that decision to make himself fit for England. As a consequence, it had a ripple effect. And he wasn't fit for pre-season. He hasn't played 90 minutes for us. So you might have England fans who are happy with you, Luke Shaw, but you're not going to have United fans who are happy with you. That's a consequence of the decision that you made with that choice. Eddie, it's not a case of, I think Shaw is taking United fans for a ride. I don't think he's injuring himself on purpose, but he made that decision. He could have sacked off anything to do with the Euros, with England, and put himself in a 2-3 month, no expenses spared rehab and whatever. And it probably would have put him in a better position to be fit for the preseason. That wasn't a choice that he made. And now I'm done. I don't see a need at any point for Luke Shaw to play for Manchester United again. The ship has sailed. Fitness-wise, his body is not capable. And I'm bored of reaching this point where Luke Shaw might come back, and then Luke Shaw either doesn't come back because there's a setback or comes back for 2 games, and then the same thing happens again. Done. We've got to move on at some point. And the thing is I don't even know when his contract runs up. When does his contract run out? I bet it's something stupid. I bet it's like 2028. 2027. Right. So Luke Shaw's got a contract until 2027. So 2 more years from this summer. Hey, I don't know how we come around this. It's going to be another one of those players, just like Martial was before him, just like Rashford was, just like Casemiro was. These contracts that are just like killing our club, man. Well, they're not killing our club. That's a massive extreme. But just the return on investment of these contracts is just like, what? So Luke Shaw's still got 2 more years on his contract from this summer. I don't know how you get rid of him. I seriously don't, because United aren't going to pay that off. And if you were Luke Shaw in his position, no matter what's happened previously, you wouldn't just forego that 2 years, because you're not going to get a contract like that again. You're 29. This is the last big contract you're ever going to have. You're going to hold on to it. So what, do United pay his 2 years off? What I imagine we probably do is we loan him out next season to somewhere, don't know where, and we partly pay his contract. That's what's going to happen with Luke Shaw. Because ain't nobody going to be signing him on a permanent deal. But yeah, he's missed nearly 5 years with injuries. Danny's saying early retirement. Yeah, he could do. But again, as I said, if you're Luke Shaw, you're not turning your back on that contract. Alex saying, sure that they got insurance. I've got no idea how contracts work. Absolutely no idea. Loan with an obligation, says Bonkers. Again, you would be bonkers to sign Luke Shaw on a loan with an obligation. You wouldn't do it. Somebody in world football will be willing to take a punt on Luke Shaw and whether he'd stay fit or not, but they're not going to do it with an obligation. Has to move somewhere, and I think it's going to have to be on loan. I don't know about medical retirement. I don't know about insurance. Of course I don't. I have no idea. Either way, he's got 2.5 years left on his contract. This Luke Shaw story is not finished just yet. And it's not as simple as just sell him in the summer, because nobody's going to be mad enough to sign him and pay for Luke Shaw this summer after the injuries that he's had. And I don't even think anybody would take an obligation. That's such a good question there from Anthony. I don't know the answer to this. So, talking of missing games, where is Mason Mount? What's the last that we heard about Mason Mount's injury? Mason Mount injury. Because he's very much in the Luke Shaw camp right now. Premier League injuries. So this, according to premierinjuries.com, is the latest on him. He got a thigh injury on December the 15th. And I think that's what Amrim said. Several weeks, I don't know the exact date, but it's going to be for long, and that's part of football. You continue. So I don't think there is no return date set for Mason Mount. Let us move on. No idea on Mason Mount is the answer. Now, this is definitely worthy of a conversation this morning. It's not worthy of a separate video, like a lunchtime video, but it's worthy of a conversation. All right, Dave Brailsford. We all know Dave Brailsford's role in Manchester United. It's actually apparently increased with the departure of Dan Ashworth. You know, the first thing I want to say here before I dive into this article around Mission 21 to become Premier League champions. I didn't want, and I don't want, Dave Brailsford to be as involved at Manchester United as he is. I understood when Dave Brailsford was involved in the crossover period, when Ineos first got their 27%, whatever it was, and he came in, and that was before we established a football structure. I saw Dave Brailsford as someone who can help bridge that gap. Helped to sort of establish, and of course I think he was pretty damn responsible for bringing Dan Ashworth in, which was I don't want Dave Brailsford to be as involved as he is, but apparently that is the case. I just don't see him as the football, but of course he's the performance side of things, and could he help? Well, that's kind of the concept of what this potentially is. But I'll run through what the article is, and then we can have a conversation in the comments. But Mission 21, for United to become Premier League champions, and there Dave Brailsford's taken a more central role in revitalising the club's performance culture. And that's one thing I would say that this kind of focuses on from a Dave Brailsford perspective. It is on performance. He's not coming in and being involved in transfers or, I don't know, he's not the CEO of the football club. But in terms of athletic performance and those marginal gains, that's where Dave Brailsford's time is being spent. But look, Dave Brailsford has unveiled a plan to United staff called Mission 21, aimed ambitiously at delivering the 21st title for us. He's taken a more central role in performance at United alongside Jason Wilcox. Don't need to read that. Don't need to read that. There you go. Brailsford has drafted this blueprint for United's future with the assistance of James Morton, Professor of Exercise Metabolism. I'm guessing that's to do with nutrition, right? And the head of nutrition and physical performance lead at Team Sky. That's who James Morton was. And that's who James Morton is. So, yeah, there's a few people down there kind of describing this exactly how I see it, right? Presented their Mission 21 blueprint to senior staff. They also unveiled Mission 1 to get the first Women's Super League title. This just feels very like corporate away day. You know, like sometimes at work you go on one of those team bonding exercises and you've all got to do a game together and it doesn't work unless you do it all together, and that builds your team bonding. Like hold the rope and then you got to stand over this and do that, and you got to do a puzzle, and then you go on a tea break, and then someone gives presentations and a flip chart comes out, and then you leave feeling inspired to be a better team. That's what this feels like, right? Just kind of corporate spiel. The one thing I won't have a go at Ineos for is there is, and there has been since they came in, is like genuine ambition for United to actually start fucking winning stuff again. That's the aim. That's been the goal since they came in, whether it's Project 150, whether it's Mission 21, and all these, whatever name you want to put on it. That's what it is. And will it have an impact? I don't really think so. People going down there saying a lot of PR. Yeah, it feels like PR because it's just a corporate tag, I think, Mission 21. It's good to have those ambitions inside the club. And that's not going to inspire a player. And maybe it's not supposed to. Maybe it's supposed to give the structure to the people behind the scenes. Because it is important to work in a working environment with goals, with targets, with something that you aim to achieve, not just Mission 21. Because what about Mission 21? How about Mission not be 14th in the table? Is probably a more realistic option right now. So if you start throwing Mission 21 out, then that's nowhere near where we are right now. So that would be an unrealistic goal, and it would actually demotivate your workforce. You go into a workforce and, like, I don't know, your turnover is like 50 grand a year. Right, our mission, our goal is to get to £1 million revenue. And you go, what do you mean? That's like 20 times what our revenue is right now. How are you possibly going to get there? You need the little smaller goals along the way. Whatever they may be, I don't know. Thank you very much, Matt, for gifting a couple of memberships down. I can see you. Yeah, marginal games. Just like, fucking hell, man. Yeah. Mission 21 to score more than 2 goals in 3 consecutive games. Mission try not to lose at home and get embarrassed by Crystal Palace. Mission have a striker who's got more than 6 goals by February. Don't know. I think these are probably the missions that we've got right now. Rex is saying, with Jim Ratcliffe and Brailsford taking an active role at United, what is Barada's remit? The corporate structure looks a mess from what I can see. Well, corporate structure, football structure. I didn't want either of these, and that's something I've been frustrated with kind of the whole way through. I didn't want Jim Ratcliffe or Dave Brailsford to be as involved in Manchester United as they have been. I understood it at the start, but Ratcliffe's definitely way too hands-on, and I see that as a problem. Brailsford, I wanted him to come in and help establish a performance environment and then step away from it, rather than step further in it. And that's what's kind of happened after the exit of Dan Ashworth. And I'm concerned about that. In terms of what Omar Barada does, Omar Barada is the CEO. Now, the CEO is the overseer. He will be overseeing the Project 150, the Project Mission 21, making sure all the dots are connected. He's the person who leads the vision. Now, in terms of what's going on with the stadium, in terms of what's going on with the ticket prices, in terms of what's going on with the cuts and the transfers, he will have sort of a visual of all of those and making sure they all stay connected. But yeah, I only have to rewind a few months here. I remembered how excited I was at the concept that Manchester United's football structure, like, finally, ladies and gents, like, I don't need to talk about it. We've got Barada in as a CEO. We've got Dan Ashworth in as a sporting director, and we've got Jason Wilcox in as a technical director. Like, solid. You've got Chris Favell in as sort of director of global talent, or whatever his bloody title was. And now he's kind of involved in recruitment. You think, yeah, solid. Okay, I don't have to worry about that side of it anymore. Cool. We can do. Oh, now you're looking at it going, well, what's he doing now? Well, now that he's gone, does that mean that he moves back there? Why is Brailsford so involved here? There's more questions that you now have to ask about it. Mr. Bojangles, I don't think they do. You're asking down there saying they may wish to appoint an Ashworth replacement. I don't think United do. Jason Wilcox has done nothing but impress people since he came in. Of course, remember that Jason Wilcox might have come in as United's technical director, but he was the head honcho at Southampton. He was a sporting director. He was in charge. He was in the Ashworth position. So he knew what he was doing. And he's taken on more. And I've not really heard anything back. I haven't heard anybody, there's negativity around Ashworth and what went on there, or Barada, or haven't heard too much in terms of bad press or bad news about what Jason Wilcox has done. You see him sitting there alongside Patrick Dorgu when the announcement was made. He's been involved in other signings too. I think he was involved quite heavily in the Diego Leon one. Yeah, Daz, he's saying it kind of feels half-assed. It feels corporate. It feels corporate. And that's what I would call it. So, like, Mission 21, yeah, all right, lads. Yeah, Project 150, yeah, all right, lads. You know what I'm going to focus on? Like, we got Leicester in the Cup on Friday against Rude. I swear to God, if Rude comes back to Old Trafford as Leicester manager and wins at Old Trafford, pissed. Then we've got Spurs coming up. Look at where we are on the table. We all just want to see progress on the pitch. And I'll speak about the starting 11. That'll be my lunchtime video today. So I'm looking forward. Hopefully, Dorgu. I don't see a reason why Dorgu isn't fit for his debut. But maybe he hasn't had enough time to settle in at Manchester United. I don't know. We'll find out. I hope we are, John, saying, will we be in for Dibbling when Southampton are relegated? We should be all over that. Tired of Dibbling. I'm not just talking about the games, both games, by the way, where he's very much impressed for Southampton when we've played him. We haven't really been able to stop him. He's just got that, just the way that he plays football. You watch him and go, yeah, I like that. He's big, he's powerful, he's got his ankles, his socks around his ankles. You can't really push him off the ball. He can drive inside, he can drive on the outside. Yeah, it seems like he's got a lot going for him. And I wouldn't be surprised to see United make a move for him, nor many other clubs. Chris Rigg is another player. That's the one from Sunderland, isn't it? Again, these players are going to sort of line up to how... we mentioned Chris Rigg a few months ago, actually. They line up into these types of signings that United are going to be making significantly more of. So whether it's Chris Rigg, whether it's Tyler Dibbling, whether it's Patrick Dorgu, whether it's Diego Leon, whether it's Carlos Cuenda, like all of these players are 21 or under. Now, we might need experience in certain positions, but it's going to be the youth that drives us forward. And it's like, we made this ages ago. I don't know whether we're going to be able to get to see it, but the concept here of Mission 21 is for that to happen. Now, we are some way off that. If Project 150 works, right? Hypothetical. It probably won't. But if it does, that's a title by 2028, which means we've got this season as sort of the settling season. Next season, and it's not exactly settled, but that's the concept. Next season would be where you kind of establish yourselves. You build on certain things that you saw in the first season. You have a cracking summer, and then next season is when Amram actually establishes United as a solid top-level Premier League team. And then the season after that is when you have conversations around, could we be involved in any sort of title race? I hope that happens because I want to see Bruno Fernandes lifting the title, man. But I don't know whether it will. I really don't know whether it will. Now, there's a couple of things I want to speak about here, actually. Mission top half. A decent keeper wouldn't go amiss. Well, yeah. I think I've learned my lessons. Onana's just another one of those players that just massively, massively confuses you. Because this is the player that we signed. I'm watching you. I've seen so much of you. I've seen how good you are with the ball at your feet. I've seen you're a decent shot stopper, like how well you work under pressure. That is what player you are. And then I see the player that I've got. And I'm like, well, that's not the player we signed. And there are so many other players like that, by the way. Just Onana's another example of it. He could have and should have been transformative, and we still need to be far, far better at playing out from the back with the ball. But can I just say one thing here before we skip on? I want to speak about Chido Obi-Martin next, right? Can I say a big shout out to everybody who watched this video yesterday and who left a comment, who dropped a like on it, and sort of maybe even dropped me a message. It was the latest in the United People's Productions series, I suppose you want to call it that. Every Wednesday evening, we release these. And that one yesterday was really well received. I really enjoyed doing it. Big up to John on the edit. Big up to Steve and to everyone in the background who helps with the research of these. And you are enjoying them. And we've got some crackers lined up. If I tell you what we've got something coming in the near future on Rashford, which is a conversation that absolutely needs to be had. We're going to be having one probably at some point soon on Pep and Fergie, which is a conversation that needs to be had. I want to do something on the debt at United and the elephant in the room. And also, and this might even be a deep dive, and I think it is, and it's something I've wanted to do for a while. And Sokar, you just mentioned it down there. The pressure of playing for United breaks most players. And I think there is a full video to be done on the pressure of playing for United and what it has done to so many players who you think, well, they can't do it. And I think that's a really important one, and kind of ties into what you're saying there about players, whether they succeed and sometimes go elsewhere and then all of a sudden they start flourishing. The pressures of playing for Manchester United is definitely a video that I want to do at some point soon. Let me see what's going on down here. Right. So, right. Let me bring you this. We've got an official statement on Lisandro Martinez, which should really come as no surprise to anybody. But Manchester United can confirm that Lisandro Martinez suffered an injury to his cruciate ligament in Sunday's game against Crystal Palace. Assessment of the injury is ongoing to determine the appropriate course of treatment and the timescale. Everyone at United wishes Martinez strength for a successful recovery and will be supporting him at every step of the way. So it's what we already knew. It's what we kind of saw straight away. And it's confirmed. It's a cruciate ligament injury for Martinez. Honest to God, I'm now concerned as to whether we will see Lisandro Martinez back after that one. It took him some time to be able to get over that knee injury, to start refinding himself. And you saw he had to kind of do that in real time. At the start of the season, he was really aggressive, but kind of his timing was wrong. When he found it, he's like, this is me. This is better. Then he started to be more like Martinez. And whether it's the goal away at Liverpool or the goal away at Fulham or the pass from Martinez to Ahmad, it's after that first injury was it was contact, but doing your metatarsal, any player can do. United ballsed up big time, brought him back too soon. Then he had to have the same surgery again. So he effectively had the metatarsal rehab twice. That took obviously longer. Then he comes back and then he gets his knee sat on, full weight, bends it in the wrong direction. Another injury, which wasn't really his fault at all. Took him a long time to recover from that. And then this one now. It's, and Glenn, you're talking about his injury record not being great. It's like Martinez's injury record prior to this was totally fine. A metatarsal, someone literally sitting on his knee. But this one here, which was like nobody was around him and his knee just kind of went the other way. That's the one. That's easily the one I'm the most concerned about. And I would have concerns as to whether or not he'll be able to come back from it. But United have confirmed it's a UCL? An ACL injury. We don't know how bad. We don't know how severe. But fingers crossed he can come back. Because I bloody love the bloke. I can't believe that, man. He knew straight away, didn't he? Yeah, it has been unlucky, but it's we'll find out, all right? We'll see. I'm sure there'll be an update at some point soon on terms of the actual severity of it and how long. But I would not expect to see Martinez play for United again in 2025. Somebody who I would say we probably will see play for United in 2025 is Chido Obi-Martin. Now, I did that video yesterday. It felt like the appropriate time to do it. I've had this video sort of in the locker for a couple of weeks because of everything that's been going on with our strikers. I thought it'd be pretty quite good to do an update on how his season so far has gone. So that's what that video yesterday was. From him scoring his hat-trick against Nottingham Forest on his debut, 14-minute hat-trick, nutty. To how many goals he's scored, to the areas of the game that he's developed in. Chido has been developing. Now, I might even do this as a poll, actually. I'd like to know where you stand on this. Do you want to see Chido brought into the first team? What should I brought into the first team in the next, let's call it, next 6 weeks? Thereabouts. Random, I'm just going to call it 6 weeks. Type just add yes or no on that poll, whether you want to see him brought in the next 6 weeks or not. Because I'm so torn on this one. It feels like I'm more torn on Chido and whether he should come through than I have been with a lot of academy players. It's not an age thing. It's like I've seen people, even on the video yesterday, oh, how old was Wayne Rooney when he came through? Oh, look at Lamine Yamal. It's just like, it's irrelevant. It's completely irrelevant. The circumstances of this football club right now and the context of us, we are desperate for goals. And I mean desperate with a capital D. So we're, as United fans, we're looking at every which way saying, like, where can we possibly get some goals from? And you're looking at Hoyd and you're going, well, okay, well, you've been crap all season. You're looking at Xerxes, you're going, well, you've not really settled at all, have you? You're looking at Mainu as a false nine, you're going, no. You don't really know what you're doing. There's nothing. Then you go, right, well, what about going to the youngsters? And you look at Chido, who, of course, has been scoring very well for the under-18s, scored for the under-21s. He's developing. But as soon as you bring him into the first-team environment, the expectations of fans will be he comes in and he scores. Straight away. In pretty much every game. And he's 17. Yeah, I saw, Dante Plunkett was training with the first team yesterday. I think he was a left side. Is he a left back? Richard, that's my main concern. That if you put Chido in and it doesn't go well at this beginning, you knock a bit of his confidence away. You settle a first impression. And then lots of United fans will think, well, he's not ready. He's got to go on loan before he even gets another chance. Let's find out. I think I saw it up there. Let me just check this out. I might have missed this slightly earlier. I think I did. I did. Gaz, you gifted 10 memberships, man. Thank you very much to everybody who continues to keep gifting to this community and making this community bigger and better. You're enabling me to make the videos like I made yesterday. And I hope you think they're worth it. Because I do. Bianchetti injured, or he would be first. Yeah, I think he would be. But like Fabrizio adding absolutely nothing to the conversation here. Oh, United have always seen Chido as part of the first team squad in the future. Wouldn't be surprising if we see him get an opportunity. No, it wouldn't be surprising. And Frogman saying, and then what if Chido comes in and then has a brilliant performance? Well, then the expectations go the other way. And then it's hard. There is no easy way to ease in a striker from the academy into this team right now. There's no easy way. Either they come in and score goals, and then the expectation is they score a goal every week, or they come in and don't score goals, and they're just as bad, and they're too young, and they should probably be kicked out. I don't know. Yeah, Ethan Wheatley went on loan to Walsall, I think, so he won't be coming through. And I'll be honest, I was even surprised that he came in ahead of Gabriel Bianchetti last season, Ethan Wheatley. So I'm not too surprised about that. Sam, you worry too much. I'm just talking about both sides of the argument here, man. Part of me wants to see Chido come through. Part of me wants to say, no, hold back, man. I know what this United environment is. I've seen it swallow up so many, even senior professionals, let alone a 17-year-old who's only made... Is it one appearance he's got for the under-21s this season? 2 appearances? Not many. And then you're going to look to him to solve our problems. I don't know. We'll find out. But look, let's speak about another youngster here before we wrap up the show today. Lenny Yoro. If you haven't seen it, I'll leave a link here. Puppy Power. I don't know why I'm saying that. I haven't seen Scooby-Doo in a long time. That was random. This is an interview with Rio and Yoro on Rio's channel. It's like a half an hour interview. I've just dropped a link to it there. I watched some of it. I haven't watched all of it. It's quite interesting talking points that it goes through. And then this one here is the quote that I want to pull up, right? Where he speaks about Ruben Amorim in training. He says this. He goes, in training, it's really, I would say, hard, but it's important. We have a lot of training. And for him, training is really important because you play the game like you train. The most important thing is to be really good in training. And if you are not working, if you are lazy in training, he won't like you. He'll kill you. It's normal because you play like you train. And you hear this and you're like, yeah, I did just say puppy power. I don't know where that came from. Intrusive thoughts. Sometimes intrusive thoughts like escape your head. If I let my intrusive thoughts escape, I think I would have got cancelled a long ass time ago. But anyway. This is exactly what you want to hear. But you know what my reaction to that is? I remember being excited about Erik ten Hag's training. I remember being excited hearing about how hard he was working the players. That if there were lazy players in training, that they would get punished. And the players just didn't respond to it. And this is kind of part and parcel of, like, if I go back to this, right? Back to why I did that video and why I thought that TV incident was an important moment for Amorim. Because you have to get that fear and respect in equal measure. It's something that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer never had. Everybody respected Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Everyone loved him. But they knew it was a soft touch and they knew they could take the piss out of him. Jose Mourinho was a disciplinarian, almost like a totalitarian. No one really loved him. Some people did. When you were on the Mourinho bus, all aboard. Here's an army. But if you're not, you're going to get run over. So there was a big fractious relationship that Mourinho had with the squad. And Ten Hag tried to go for the discipline, had people's respect, but then it kind of disappeared when United's second season happened. And the communication, was it ever truly there? Questionable. I hope that Ruben Amorim is going to be the first manager, head coach, post-Fergie, to be able to balance that fear and respect. No manager's done it so far. People took the piss out of Solskjaer. They didn't really like Mourinho. They fell out with Ten Hag. Is that harsh training a way of doing it? Well, yeah. The whole concept of training is the whole concept of any training in life is you do something 1,000 times, and then by the time you actually have to do it when you need to do it, when it matters, you've done it before, and it's a piece of piss. You take a free kick 1,000 times. When you have one in a game, you're going to be invariably a lot better at taking free kicks than if you hadn't done it at all. If you jog around in training, why are you going to do anything apart from jog around in a game? If you're training for a marathon, I've never done it. I've trained for a triathlon. Well, I say a sprint. I've done 2 sprint triathlons. And the training for it was grim. Absolutely grim. But the only way I've managed to do the actual sprint triathlon was by doing the training. Did you see? I'm sure you saw the video the other day of like Roy Keane speaking about the training issue in Rashford. He goes, "There's no point you involving me in this conversation. Like, it's such a foreign concept to me that you don't just put everything into training. Like, honestly, I can't even speak about it." That's how confused Roy Keane was. So the idea that people don't go into training and just graft. And people have mentioned the army down there. It's the whole point of training in anything in life. It's supposed to be harder than the thing you are training for. So when you do the thing you are training for, you are prepared for it. But United have, for a long ass time, the players have looked at training as almost like an inconvenience. Like, I really got to turn up to work today. Right, I'll go. Okay. And that's something that Amram's trying to change. But hearing that, he'll kill you in training. Of course, you want to hear that. But the players have actually got to respond to it, man. They've really got to respond to it. Right, I'm going to wrap this up for today. Last minute of the show. Fire in your questions. Anything you want me to speak a bit more about, I will. But I'll end the show how I started. It is the 67th anniversary of the Munich Air Disaster. And it's something that won't ever be forgotten at this football club, shouldn't ever be forgotten about this football club. It has massively shaped the club that we are. And that history holds heavy and is something that should inspire, though, rather than be considered a burden, like something that you have to live up to after what they did. Because it's so incredible that 10 years after that, Matt Busby won the European Cup. After everything that happened. It really is such an incredible achievement. Stevie saying, how can City spend 200 mil in this window given the charges? Oh, because they got their revenues down at what? 800 million. Okay. But anyway. Maybe it's City preempting a transfer ban. Let's find out. Can you explore free transfer options for United this summer? Yeah, you could have Virgil van Dijk. You could have Trent Alexander-Arnold. You could have Mo Salah. There's a couple of players. Available. You got Jonathan David. Who else is available? There's going to be loads. Anyway, we'll have discussions about that later in the year. Today's video is going to be all about the Leicester game, my starting 11, Patrick Dorgu's debut, other team news, issues with strikers and goal scorers. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you do have a cracking day. Drop a like on the video if you can. And I'll be back tomorrow, Friday vibes, and also later today with the starting 11. Take it easy.